Hey boys and girls, this week we are picking up and moving forward. 2 weeks ago we talked about fossils, all the different types of fossils. Index fossils will also be important this week. Last week we talked about the geologic time scale, all the different eras. And I'm sure you remember that periods are part of eras. We also will, we're going to talk about the next 2 weeks different ways that scientists determine the age of a fossil that they find, or any kind of remain they want to determine. This week we're going to talk about relative age dating. Next week will be absolute age dating. Absolute is when you can tell exactly what the age is. Relative is when you can kind of put them in order from oldest to youngest, but may not be able to tell exactly the age, but close. So relative age dating is just putting geological events in order from oldest to youngest. Okay. Next thing we have, there's two different laws involved in relative age dating. The first one is the law of superposition, and this is just, which kind of makes sense, is that if we have this little diagram here, these Legos, if you think about this is what we'd be walking on, the surface of the earth would be the red layer, that if we were to dig down through these layers, the farther you go down, the older stuff is. So if this is working exactly right, and it's undisturbed sediment, then when you dig down, no matter where you dig down, you should go red to green to brown to gray to white. Okay, so the law of superposition states that the oldest stuff is under the younger stuff in an undisturbed sediment column. So if the sediment's not been messed with, then no matter where you dig down, that's the way it's going to happen. Okay, so that's the law of superposition. The next law is the law of cross-cutting relationships. Okay, this is when an igneous rock, a fault, or some other geologic figure must be younger than anything that it cuts. So like I said before, this has been totally undisturbed. So this is just the way it is. If there was some reason that one of these was shifted, this has just been elevated by Subway gift cards from some precious students. But it's just to tell you that for some reason that these shifted, then you'd have to do more than just dig down to determine. Like the red would still match up with red, the green would match up with green, brown with brown, gray with gray, and white with white, but they wouldn't be right straight across from each other. So in this case, this would be a fault, which is a brittle break in a rock. That's what a fault is. Okay. That's one instance of what can happen. This happens with plate tectonics that you should have learned about in 6th grade, that causes earthquakes where the shifting in the plates and other things happen like that. Okay. Now another thing that can happen with the law of cross-cutting relationships is that I'm sure you remember that the center of the earth is, liquid metal, and sometimes we learned about hydrothermal vents a while back in hydrosphere, where those vents allow steam to come through at that area. That also can happen in rock. So if we pictured this fancy craft, whatever we call these things, call them pipe cleaners still, pipe cleaners. We think about this being magma coming up from under the earth, and if it came in between these two layers, then what that tells us is that these layers are going to be older than the magma that will come up between the layers and then solidify into igneous rock. This will be younger than the layers that it cut. Okay? That means this will be from the white to the gray to the brown to the green to the red, and then orange would be last. Same with the fault we did before. If there's a fault, it's going to be white, gray, brown, green, red, fault. If we're doing the oldest to youngest. Okay, it's a law of cross-cutting relationships. Whatever's doing the cutting is going to be younger than the stuff being cut. Whether it's cut by fault, or whether it's cut by lovely magma becoming igneous rock. Something like that. Okay. Next word is intrusion. Intrusion just describes what this is. This is intrusion. Intrusion is the process of forcing a body of igneous rock between or through existing formations. So if these were existed together and been there perfectly fine together, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, there's a break down here and the rock, the magma is forced up, it cools and solidifies and does that. That's intrusion. Like somebody intruding, an intruder coming into your home, this thing is intruding between layers that are perfectly happy to be the way they were. This is intrusion. Okay. Next word is sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rock is rocks made from pieces of other rocks and organism hard parts that we learned about 2 weeks ago. The best type of fossils are made from hard parts of organisms. Okay. Next word we have is igneous rock. Igneous rock is rock formed by the cooling and solidification of magma or lava. You probably remember this. Magma is underground. Lava is once it's fused out of the lovely volcano. It becomes lava. Same stuff. That placement has to do with the name. The final vocabulary word is fault. We talked about before. Fault is just a brittle break in the rock. For some reason, the rock breaks at some point, and it causes a shift. It causes superposition not to work exactly right. So, that's all the words we have for today. Bye-bye.